Okay, Charlotte, come on up. We've got a great testimony from Charlotte. Give her a round of applause. Jason's coming too. Jason's a part of it. Yes. Absolutely.
You have to bear with me. I don't like being up front here. Okay. I'll flip it over here. So we should have probably shared this a couple of months ago, actually, but I just didn't know. There are so many different angles that I could have gone with this testimony that I didn't know where to start. So finally, the other week, I sat down and I thought, okay, God, you're just going to have to write this. So I sat down to put pen to paper, and I'm going to just kind of read it because it's just easier. So this is my husband, Jason, for those of you that don't know. He's not usually here because he works really crazy hours. But he's here today. I made him come. Okay. So we purchased our first home in 2009, just after we got married. It was a simple 2-story home with 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. We purchased it at what we thought was an affordable price. Unfortunately, just before settlement, we discovered that the house was in a flood zone in the borough of Newport. At that time, the flood insurance premiums were being subsidized by the government, so it didn't seem that bad. And so we were like, okay, and we moved ahead with it. But unfortunately, the government realized they couldn't continue to subsidize, and they started to lift those subsidies, and our flood insurance continued to go up and up and up. They began to skyrocket. We'd reached a point where our mortgage payment had doubled in size just to accommodate that flood insurance premium. It was crazy. So in the midst of all of that, gas and oil prices were going up, much like they are now. They were going up higher and higher. So we were both working, but we struggled to make ends meet. We were struggling with our finances. We were not tithing consistently and just didn't believe that we could. We got a bit of a wake-up call when we realized we were facing the possibility of having one of our vehicles being repossessed. We also struggled with shortcomings of the house itself. As much as we loved our first home, it was a century old, and it had very little closet and storage space. There was no usable storage room at all. It was a dirt basement and attic steps that were, more narrow than a person could go up. So we just had no storage. The furnace had stopped working. We'd begun using a pellet stove, but it didn't heat the whole house. It really only comfortably heated the front room. So the house was uncomfortable and constantly cluttered because we had nowhere to put anything. I was embarrassed to have people come to my house. I thought we belonged on an episode of Hoarders. So we talked about what we wanted to do for the future, and we realized that neither one of us really wanted to stay in town. We're not town people. I was raised out in the country. He was raised in town, but at a different time. We didn't want to stay in town. We didn't want to stay in that house. We longed to be out in the country with room to roam. We realized that in order to make that happen, we had to make some big changes. We took a good look at our finances and what was going on, and we began to do what we should have been doing all along. We gave it over to God. We began to tithe. We trimmed our budget and started a debt snowball to pay off things that could be paid off. Our mortgage company, this isn't always a good thing, but our initial mortgage company sold our mortgage to another mortgage company, which turned out to be a good thing for us because the first mortgage company wanted our flood insurance to be a percentage of the full replacement cost of our home. And the second mortgage company said, no, we just care about the money that you owe us, which is a big difference in our flood premium. So we were able to refinance and lower our flood premium to get a more affordable mortgage payment. I lost my place now. As 2020 began, this was all stuff that was going on in the past 5 or 6 years. As 2020 began, we had completed that debt snowball. We were tithing and giving more. We had dedicated ourselves to giving and continued to tithe even as things shut down and we had to stay home. We used that online text giving. We do it religiously just to make sure, even if we're not here, our tithe gets here. I lost my place again. We began to look at all of our options for moving forward with finding a new home. The housing market in 2020, if you were paying attention to the housing market, was crazy. It was intense, to say the least. Houses were selling within days of being listed on the market. And so really we decided that to get what we wanted, we needed to build, which was even still crazy. As Pastor Tim shared, housing materials are crazy as well. So we began to look at land, and we looked for about a year. We thought we found some that we liked, but nothing was working out. So after looking for about a year, we kind of went back to the drawing board and said, okay, we've got to give this over to God too. He's going to make it work. So we went back to the drawing board, and in February of 2021, we found a piece of land. We had our builder look at it. We looked at it with a realtor, and they all said, yeah, that's great. It had a well. It had electric already run to it. There had been a home there years past that had burnt down and was demolished. So our builder was able to get that land for less than the list price because it had been sitting on the market for a while, surprisingly enough. But he got it for less than the listed price. The cost of building materials had skyrocketed, but at the same time, interest rates were a rock bottom. And we were able to lock in when they were at their lowest. And we were able to lock in the lowest interest rate. So it balanced it out. We were able to lock in when the rates were at their lowest. Throughout 2020 and 2021, we both continued to work and save despite the challenges and shutdowns that were going on. Neither one of us lost employment or lost income during that time. And in fact, we saw our income increase in that time period. So we were very thankful for that. God gets all the glory for all of it because we certainly couldn't have done any of it on our own. It took us tithing and giving our finances over to God. And during one of the most difficult times, we were able to build a brand new home and move forward with it. And that's all God.